Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining our weekly podcast. I'm Robin Lewis, founder and CEO of the Robin Report, which, by the way, is much more than just a daily report. It really is a knowledge platform from which we communicate thought leadership on various strategic topics through, yes, the daily reports, but also these podcasts. And we do webinars, and hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll be doing live events. So along with our chief strategist, Shelley Kohan, also a professor at FIT and Syracuse University, by the way, we welcome you to our conversation on the topic of the more things change, the more they change. Now, this is not intended to be a trick or cute topic. It is intended to immediately state that this time we are in is not, and I repeat, is not, the more things change, the more they stay the same. We are not, and I say not, going to go back to some normal that defined our lives before COVID, and specifically consumer shopping behavior and how it is creating a new normal. To repeat, a new normal. And we are still creating it, Shelley, and the new normal still isn't totally clear. So Shelley and I are going to give you a snapshot of where we are in this creation of a new normal and how the Generation Z, which will, by the way, be the largest consumer cohort in 2026, are driving what will be the new normal, and how, along with technology and the hangover from COVID, how they are also driving what will be the new normal's strategic and structural shift in the brand and retail ecosystems. But first, Shelley has done a very interesting analysis and a lot of work on how the old normal looked for the past 30 years in terms of how retail revenues across all sectors and categories, as she put it, how the ebb and flow of month-over-month revenues would be a few percentage points up or down. But on the average, the old normal stayed, well, normal, with three major exceptions. So Shelley, this is very interesting what you did. Take us through that really very enlightening analysis.
Sure, Robin. So the U.S. Census Bureau, they analyze retail sales month over month, meaning they look at how the consumer is spending across all categories, and they compare the previous month to the current month. So, and these numbers are seasonally adjusted to account for the number of days, how many weekend days, etc. So it's really just an economic review of how consumers are spending money month over month. So I thought it'd be fun. And some of the geeky things I do with my numbers and analysis, I looked all the way back to 1992. And I looked at the 30 years of month over month numbers, which are actually consistently similar. What I mean by that, if you like chart out these last 30 years and you chart out the variances month over month, the sales kind of ebb and flow since 1992 shows these small changes, you know, mostly up and down 2% in that neighborhood. And we know retail is a cyclical industry where performance is directly related to changes in the economy. And this is even more evident in the non-essential categories of retail. So I look at this ebb and flow over the past 30 years, and there were three major exceptions to this incremental change month over month. Mm-hmm. And the three exceptions are October 2001, November 2008, and March through September 2020. So let's start with the first one. So everyone probably knows already that October 2001 is directly related to 9/11. So right after 9/11, sales in September overall dropped 2%, and the U.S. markets were obviously devastated, but it rebounded very quickly in October of 2001. as Americans really wanted to show resilience. Sales were up a whopping 7.3%, and then they
Wow.
leveled off in November, December.
Mhm.
Then we go into the financial crisis of 2008. Sales really started dropping month over month in July and then August. And then the economy was hit hard October, November, December, where the US sales were down 4% for October and then down 2.4% in December. So again, this month over month sales
Yep.
trend. And then, of course, the pandemic hits. So March through April, month over month, March was down 5.6%. And then April, of course, was down 13%. So retailers had to kind of shift online, and a lot of retailers closed. So the sales compared to the previous months were down significantly, obviously. So the sales up and down, however, since the pandemic, and this is where it becomes inconsistent, have been unpredictable. The ebb and flow is not the same pattern as it has been for the past 30 years. October is becoming a more important month, meaning more sales are in October. This is following 2020. December has less spending in it. And actually January compared to December has actually really been strong in 2021, 2022, and 2020.
Huh. Interesting.
So
Yep.
when we look at the fiscal year 2023, it might be the first fiscal year since the pandemic that we're actually getting back to that kind of same ebb and flow. But the sales have just been so unpredictable.
Right.
And we heard this earlier this year, Robin, from a lot of CEOs, that we're going to see a slowdown of spending in 2023. But I think that what we're really seeing is looking at finally a return to normal.
Yeah, but Shelley, you're talking about sales revenues, right? And that's fine, and that's right. But as I said, we're not going to go back to that old normal. And let me give you the reason for why I believe that. After 9/11 and the following great financial meltdown in 2008, the Great Recession, as it was called, okay, immediately after both of those disasters, we knew what to do to get through both of them and to heal and get back to the old normal. So take 9/11. Okay, we grieve for the loss of over 3,000 lives, clean up the collapse of the World Trade Center, identify the culprits, and we go after them and wipe them out. Mission accomplished, if not taking a long time. So after the 2008 crash, we knew we needed to fire hose money into the economy, and we did. So in both cases, we did go back to the old normal. But then COVID and the pandemic, the entire world flailed around trying to figure out how to get through it, while millions died and economies went into lockdown. So in addition to a warp speed vaccine, we again fire hose money way more than in 2008 to both individuals and businesses alike, hoping to get back to the ebbing and flowing, comfortable old normal. Hello, no way. It's going to be a new normal and being created as we speak by the transformative combination of the largest young consumer cohort, but not just that alone, combined with a whole new set of values, many coming out of the COVID impact, but also the new technologies that retailers have learned to use to transform their old normal strategies and structural makeup to serve the new young consumers. In other words, this combination is creating a new normal.
Yes. So let's talk about this. So let's first start with the most significant shift in consumer behavior that's creating this new normal. And that's Gen Z. So Gen Z their impact will be paramount to the new retail landscape. They're shifting, as you had mentioned, to the largest purchasing generation by 2026. That's 3 years away, by the way. And when you
Yeah.
reflect back on this micro environmental influences that shape their lives, you can see how this impact is really going to have a shift in consumerism.
Yep.
So some were about 4 years old or younger when 9/11 happened. Obviously, they don't remember what happened in the event itself, but the annual reminders, stories from families, constant news coverage as the Freedom Towers being rebuilt makes it relevant in their lives. It shaped the generation through immediate families. The message here is countries are vulnerable. And now these young adults are living through the war on Ukraine.
Yep.
When the financial crisis hit in 2008, many of the Gen Z were in elementary school and they experienced parents getting laid off, workers who long served a company losing a job. Here's the message that they come away from. Work is work. Life-work balance is better.
There you go.
And then you have the pandemic hit, and Gen Z is, between 8 and 23 now. Many starting colleges on Zoom. And there's a shift of importance of taking care of yourself and the earth. And
Yep.
this cohort really has already been a big supporter of environmental actions. Gen Z solidified their standing as a generation to address global warming and really pushing to reduce the carbon footprint. So really going beyond this simple sustainability efforts to actually, Robin, saving the world. And
Yep.
you know what? They can do it with their younger sidekick, Alpha generation, coming up right behind them. The message here, the earth means something and we need to save it.
Oh boy, I hope. You're
So,
right. Yeah.
when we talk about, how all of this translate into changing consumer shifts, Gen Z is going to do business with companies that are doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to align with companies that share their own values. They will spend companies with money. They will spend money with companies that are actually helping to address a meaningful segment of environmental concerns. Re-commerce is going to continue to grow,
Yeah.
recycle, resell. They're more prone to support gender neutral populations, support alternative lifestyles, and they really see people as just that, people.
Yeah.
Gen Z is most ethnically diverse generation in the US. And they really want to see companies that are offering a more broader approach to product assortment and services. And Robin, I'm not talking about more stuff.
Right.
I'm
Yes.
talking about a broader assortment that appeals to a wider demographic. But they're really going to drive down consumerism, but also they're going to create this wider appeal across markets. They're going to be seeking brands that are authentic and live up to the ethos that's projected. So, they can be really highly engaged in a brand as a digital native, of course. And they expect when they're interacting with the brand that the technology is seamless and meaningful. And I know, Robin, a lot of people are ho-hum on the metaverse. I'm telling you, they're going to drive the metaverse commerce for sure.
Well, that's going to be interesting. Yeah.
They take mental health seriously. They believe that companies and governments should do more to support a healthy balance. They want to be heard. They want to have a voice. They want retailers to really deliver all of these things. And they want to have a voice in this shopper journey. It's not just social media in terms of, embracing a generation, but it's social media. It's the community part that's more important. In other words, don't just let me post on social media. Let me tell my story.
Yep.
It's different, right?
Yeah.
Speaking up for others, driving social justice, speaking out for their tribe. How companies treat employees becomes even more important. How they interact with the community. What are they standing up for? Diversity, equity, and inclusion are values at the core of the generation. So shopping with brands that have a similar stance of inclusive environments for all is something that they're really looking for companies they both work for and shop in. Environments are important. Store design should be easily navigatable, offering in-stock items, hidden surprises along the way. Born with this kind of information overload, the shopping experience has to be at the level that meets this higher expectation. They have so much information at their fingertips. Gen Z is very powerful, all-knowing consumer who wants to help fix the problems of a business. They want to be part of the solution. They like this direct communication style, and they have this, oh, that's easy to fix temperament. So this is going to keep retailers on their toes. And their kind of philosophy, if it ain't broke, make it better anyway.
Boy, Shelley, this is a great profile that you just did, and on the Gen Zs and what they're going to be demanding. It really is spot on, and I'm glad you went through all of it the way you did. I mean, it's incredible, and and by the way, what you define is certainly not back to an old normal. And another one that is way not old normal is remote and hybrid work, right? Life-work balance will continue to play an evolving role in the marketplace. And this is certainly a direct result of COVID and learning that they didn't have to go to the office 5 days a week.
Right.
A lot of CEOs see it differently, of course, and now there's this big debate about, talking about hybrid work. So each company is going to have to sort it out in their own way, but you better believe the fact that the new normal is going to have this hybrid work life work balance, if you will. So the digitalization of work, coupled with the adoption of hybrid and remote work practices, and think Zoom, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. All this has created a renewed focus on the fundamentals of workplace productivity. Once detached executives are now starting to look down through the layers and layers of bureaucracy, if you will, and into the details to find out-of-date technologies, bureaucratized practices, and process inefficiencies. But the reality, Shelley, is employees are being asked to do more with less.
Yep.
When they least have the capacity to do so. They can only make so many improvements in productivity and effectiveness, especially as organizations shift in response to rapidly changing conditions. When they're confined to the same old processes and workflows, they really have to rethink in a major way how work gets done and who does it to enable responses to disruptions and change, including working from home. Failure to reevaluate these fundamentals will exhaust already taxed employees and make them less willing and able to stay engaged, also while being productive through this crisis. And of course, there's going to be the next.
Absolutely, Robin.
Yeah.
Spot on with that. I also think, just to kind of build on the technological advances, this whole friction-free shopping that we've been talking about for years, this now just becomes basic table stakes.
Yep.
These consumers, their expectation of friction-free shopping are higher than ever. And there's really now this low tolerance for technological hiccups. Quite simply, consumers expect technologies to work, and they expect it to make shopping easier. And, the other part is, while many technologies have aided in a smoother experience, these added technologies have also added complexities to the infrastructure. You have computer vision, machine learning, and other forms of AI that are being added to help consumers with product selection, curbside pickup, cashierless shopping, checkouts, customer service queries, in-store navigation. So these new features are no longer considered a quote unquote enhancement to the shopping experience, but now it's just expected.
Yep, you're right.
And by the way, by 2027, more than 50% of the global population will be daily active users of multiple super apps. This is according to Gartner. So
What's the super app?
these are apps that are created by companies that have many features, but so they have an app, but they also include access to partner apps. So you can
God.
kind of think of it in terms of like an app ecosystem.
Oh my God, weird.
And hey, this is big. And the metaverse is real, as you know, I believe in it, and will be thriving by 2027. Over 40% of large organizations worldwide will be using a combination of Web3, spatial computing, and digital twins in the metaverse-based projects aimed at specifically increasing revenue. This is from Gartner as well. So, retailers are experimenting in the metaverse, and
Yeah.
those that are doing it well will be ahead of the curve and can really maximize on the learnings as younger generations become more involved in, virtual workplaces and shopping venues. Robin, think of this. Think hybrid work as going to a virtual office in the metaverse, not a Zoom call.
I'll tell you, Shelley, it's really hard for me to get my mind around all of this. It really is. Forget about old normal. If anybody out there thinks they want to get back to the way it was before COVID, you might as well get off this train because it's moving forward. You better be on it. Another part of this new normal is, I don't know, what I would say is a hyper old normal loyalty into the new normal. Retailers are finally figuring out, Shelley, that the loyal customer is about 2 times more profitable and way less costly than gaining new customers. And particularly in an overstored and now over websited marketplace, which I'm sick and tired of hearing myself say this all the time. So doing whatever it takes to keep current loyal customers ecstatic and to breed new loyal customers is going to be an absolute imperative. Also, consumers are simply expecting more from their loyalty programs and even more for sharing their data. I mean, they expect that loyalty programs are tailored to their personal shopping journeys. Also offering a choice of rewards. And by the way, they must also be easy to use. And again, to gain a lot of points.
It's
blah,
true.
blah, blah.
Right, Rob. We talked a little bit about this in our last podcast about the dark side of AI. And I'm just going to mention this briefly because I did kind of address it more deeply in the other podcast, but I have to say it because it's really, I think data privacy is a growing concern.
Yep.
I think as more retailers are adding all this various forms of AI, the concern of consumer privacy is really growing. 30% of consumers are worried about data privacy when dealing with specifically retail companies. So retailers really need a proactive approach to data protection for sure.
Yeah, and I end up agreeing with you. I know I was taking one side of the argument about they talk the talk, but they don't walk. In other words, consumers will tell you if you ask them, yes, we're concerned about privacy, but then they'll go right ahead and go into the store that gives them no privacy. But retailers and brands have to know that this is something that these new young generation cohort are going to be demanding. So, Shelley, I have kind of a fun wrap up using ChatGPT.
Oh my God.
Listen to this. Yeah, of course, most people know that this is the newest iteration of generative AI, which, by the way, and this may end up being a much bigger driver of the new normal than all the other stuff combined. Listen to this. I asked, and by the way, you can all get on, your Google Chat GPT, and it'll take you to a site where you can kind of sign in and you can participate. So I did this and I asked ChatGPT what were going to be the most important issues for retailers to focus on in 2023. In 4 seconds, they returned the following. And here are a list of 7. Number 1, omni-channel retail. All channels seamlessly integrated. 2, personalization. With the increasing availability of data and technology, customers now expect a personalized shopping experience. By the way, these are the exact words that come back from ChatGPT, right? Number 3, sustainability. Retailers need to prioritize sustainability by adopting eco-friendly practices and products, reducing waste, and promoting social responsibility. Number 4, supply chain optimization. Retailers need to optimize their supply chain to minimize costs and ensure timely delivery. This includes leveraging technology to track inventory, manage logistics, and forecast demand. Number 5, cybersecurity. As online shopping continues to grow, cybersecurity threats such as data breaches and online fraud are becoming more common. Retailers need to implement robust security measures to protect their customers' personal and financial information. Right on top of what you're saying, Shelley. Workforce management. The retail industry is facing a shortage of skilled workers, particularly in areas such as technology and digital marketing. Retailers need to focus on hiring and training employees with the necessary skills to support their digital transformation. And finally, number 7, social media marketing. Social media continues to be a crucial marketing channel for retailers. Retailers must stay up to date with social media trends and use platforms to engage with customers, build brand awareness, and drive sales. Unbelievable. This coming from a robot or, a bot. Incredible. And Shelley, we covered most of all of these in one podcast after another, but that bot is going to be awesome for creating the new normal. I mean, in fact, a lot of the experts, scientists, Elon Musk and so forth, they're very concerned because they aren't sure that this bot can't get out of hand and get into some negative territory. So they're asking that a long pause be made in these generative AI bots to really understand what can be the downside and to build some regulations around it. Anyway, I thought that was very interesting.
Oh my gosh, Rob, that's super interesting. Maybe the chat bot can do our podcast next week.
Yeah, I mean, but think about this. If you're thinking about doing an article, which you and I are doing all the time, you can tune into the chat GPT and whatever other ones are out there and say, well, just like this, if I'm going to run an article about what are the most important issues for 2023, I'll get this back, and that could really help to begin to form an article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only can it form an article and write the article, some of my students are turning in papers, that are, write a thesis statement on retail strategies for 2023, and poof, there it is.
Oh my God.
But I'm pretty good at catching them.
Yeah, I mean, but when you think about it, in a kind of a holistic way, it can be dangerous, and it can maybe stunt the learning process for students if that's all they have to do.
Right.
Wow. Well,
anyway,
Professor.
For our listeners, you can find more of our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and therobinreport.com. Look for us on YouTube where we broadcast our podcast as well. And please follow us on social media. Link in with us for the latest thoughts about the industry.
And I want to thank you all again as well. And I hope you learned something from what we talked about. And as I've said before, if you have any ideas or topics that you would like Shelley and I to cover on these podcasts, send me an email, robin@therobinreport.com. And thank you very much again.